Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back to SP Vids. In this video I want to do a full in-depth review of the fat pads which I fitted last week. Thanks to everyone that joined me for that one. Appreciate it was probably a bit of a nervous watch, but got there in the end and the SP is looking really cool now. I've basically been making beats non-stop since I got these pads fitted. It's just so good to be able to use the SX fully again and not have to worry about any of the pads. Here's the old sheet, as you can see. Two of the buttons now completely gone, all the lettering's gone off them and everything, and they were full of grime and crap. So yeah, it just feels amazing to have some fresh pads on there. It feels like a new unit basically, so that was really nice. And yeah, from what I can tell, everything is working completely fine as well. I haven't found any buttons that aren't working yet, so everything's gone very smoothly. So yeah, there's just a few features I want to talk about in regards to these. And starting off with the looks of them, well, there doesn't really need to be much said about that. They look incredible, the matching top and bottom as well. So yeah, huge shout out again to npcstuff.com for sending these over, and if you do want to get yourself some, guys, like, go ahead and use the link in the description below. I'll post that again for you so you guys can go and pick these up if you want to. Just before I start doing the full review, should just point out that the top pads, I don't believe that they are fat pads. It's just the bottom half that are fat pads. You can see the difference in the height between them, hopefully. I'll do a little B-roll shot anyway so you guys can see that. So yeah, the top pads are a like for like change, it's just the colour that's different, and it's the bottom where the fat pads are, which is where you need them really, because that's where you're giving the unit the most abuse. So someone did ask on my last video, does this pad block out the LED lights around the screen, and unfortunately it does look like it does. I've had my LED lights on this screen turned off for ages because I just really don't like that constant flashing of lights when a sample's running through this, so I went ahead and turned that off. If you want to do that, you just hit function and 7, which is illumination, and you can change it. You can have it as red and blue, just as blue, just as red, or sleep. I'm not sure. I think you can just send your SP to sleep doing that one. So yeah, I've had that off for ages, and so to me it didn't make any difference whatsoever. But if you particularly like having a flashing light around your display, then maybe these pads at the top aren't for you. But you can definitely still go ahead and get the fat pads for the bottom, because there's no effect to that side of the SP. So yeah, that's the looks wise. I think we can all agree that they do look incredible, and I'm super hyped on how they look. I think that, yeah, like I say, it looks like a brand new unit, and very happy with them. Feel wise, they do feel very different to the stock pads which I've got here. So the stock pads, the top of them, they have kind of like a almost plasticky feel to them. It's quite smooth. These ones are a massive upgrade. They feel a lot more kind of rubberized, if that makes sense. So there's more sort of feel to them, there's more texture, and there's just more grip overall. So that's definitely the first thing I noticed straight away, was the pads. They just feel like way more grippy, and that's definitely a good thing for something that you're building beats on, and something that you're probably finger drumming on as well. That extra little bit of grip really is welcomed in this situation. One thing as well is that the lettering on this isn't printed on the top of the pads, which I think does make a big difference to the overall grip of the pads as well, because on the stock pads over here, the lettering's printed on the top, and as you can see, that's why it's worn off on mine, because it's literally just, well, paint essentially, I guess. Whatever material it is, through the years of abuse, it eventually just wears off. Whereas these, it's actually cut out of the rubber, so the light shines through the lettering, which I think actually adds to the aesthetic as well, and it just means that there's more surface area for the grip. So on the lettering and the numbers, yeah, there's no grip on there. They kind of feel like the old pads. Those bits in between, they feel like what the old pads do. And then this black rubberization on the top is kind of like a cover, and that's how the pad gets the grip. And yeah, it looks a lot better than the stock pads, because the illumination on those pads, it's just behind the lettering, so the lettering doesn't change at all. Obviously it just lights up and you can see the lettering because of the contrast, but with these, the light is actually coming through the gaps in the black rubberization, so that's super nice. And yeah, like I say, it means that you've got much more grip on the pad as well. Another thing as well is these feel way less like toggles, if that makes sense. So if you have the stock pads on the SX, you're probably aware of how the pads kind of feel like they're toggling on and off in a way. They kind of feel like off and on buttons. They're not quite off and on buttons, but hopefully you understand what I mean. They don't quite have that sort of nice NPC style feel to them. But fortunately with these ones, it's a huge difference. I mean, that action still needs to happen because the button still needs to touch the circuit underneath. If you remember from my last video, I showed you how the button contacts the circuit in order to make the sample trigger. Well, these feel like they're doing that less. These feel much more like actual pads. It's hard to explain. I guess it's something to do with the way they are produced and made, but there's definitely a difference there. So they're not clicky like the old ones were. Hopefully you can see from this. If not, I'll do a close-up of how these are so much like toggly, and these just kind of sink and rise. They haven't got that clickiness to them. So yeah, for finger drumming and just generally beat making, they're like a huge upgrade, I think, and the feel of them is just way better. So yeah, let me just do a little bit of demonstration for you on these pads finger drumming. They feel infinitely better than the stock ones, but I do have to point out that I might be being a little bit biased because I'm kind of comparing these to the end of the life of the stock pads, so that might be why I feel that these are like just incredible, because they actually work and they're fully functional. So that's something to note, but I definitely don't think I could drum as clean with my fingers on the old ones as I can with this. So you can always get those kind of like triplets plus an extra note, and I think it is, I don't know what it is, but I could definitely not do that with the old pads. This kind of I definitely couldn't do that with the old pads, because it's just too much up and down movement, whereas these, they don't need to do that up and down movement, they just squeeze, so you can get way more speed on them as well. So yeah, feels super nice, and yeah, you can definitely hit those a lot quicker than the stock pads in my opinion. Okay, I've just gone ahead and actually compared the feel of these to the feel of the stock ones as well, and I have to say these are actually an improvement as well. Again, they've got that kind of sponginess to them instead of the toggle, which I'm doing here. They've got the toggle. These buttons feel like quite hard to press, whereas these ones have a really nice sort of spongy feel to them. So yeah, even the top half, even though they're not fat pads, they're actually an improvement as well, I think. So yeah, looks wise, absolutely spot on. I really like the look of this now. Feels like a brand new unit, it looks like a brand new unit, especially with these yellow dials which have just popped on. I think they look super nice as well. Feel wise, huge upgrade to the stock ones. Feel way more spongy and easier to play. Can play them faster, and they feel like, because they're thicker, that they'll actually last a bit longer as well, hopefully. So one thing that I did forget to mention actually, which is quite important, is that the pads, you don't need to press them anywhere near as hard as you did with the stock ones. I'll try and demonstrate with no volume actually, because this is how hard I can make it trigger. You can still see the light going, but I'll stop talking and you'll be able to hear that there's hardly any noise when I'm pressing this pad. Whereas I feel like I was having to hit stock ones kind of this hard to make them work. That's kind of how hard I used to finger drum. I think it used to kind of be like this. And now with these pads, I can just do them like this. Look at the response on that. I think that is incredible actually. I think, yeah, I really don't want to understate that enough. The response of these pads is infinitely better than the stock ones, and that's probably the main selling point actually. Completely forgot to mention that. You really don't have to press them that hard, and basically over the weekend I was trying to train myself to hit them less hard, and what that'll do is it'll preserve the life of the pads as well. And also it just means that if you're finger drumming all the time, you'll get far less finger fatigue as well. So it's a win-win situation all round for these pads, in my opinion. So yeah, just a quick shout out again to npcstuff.com. They hooked me up with these and I'm really happy, because now I can just use my unit completely as if it was brand new, and that's just a huge deal for me, because I've been sort of limping along with a badly working SP for a good few months now, maybe 5 to 6 months. So really hyped to get back on this and be able to use it fully. And like I said, I've been on it all weekend just because I've been absolutely loving it. So yeah, if you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button, as I drop content around lo-fi hardware, software and other related topics every week. Thank you to everyone that subscribed recently. I'm noticing stats are really picking up since I've started uploading more regularly, so fully appreciate everyone that watches and comments. And yeah, there's links to my social profiles as well in the description, so if you just can't get enough SP vids content, hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, where I kind of started posting a bit more regularly as well. Apart from that guys, keep making beats and I will be back very soon. Peace!